My name is Dan Luck, and I am the co-founder and co-owner of Four Brothers Mead here in Festus. Yeah, so mead is a honey wine, as opposed to a traditional wine where you ferment grapes. We ferment honey. The honey, I mean, you talk about fermenting grapes. So it breaks down the yeast, attacks the sugars in the grapes, and it converts to alcohol from there. Well, it's the same principle, but with honey. So the yeast we use will start to attack the sugars in the honey, and CO2 is emitted, and alcohol is the product, and it works the same way as wine in a lot of ways. So Four Brothers Mead, there's four of us, four brothers. So myself, my brother by birth, I have a brother-in-law, married my sister, and then the fourth is a brother-in-arms. In no particular order between the four of us, but Brian, our brother-in-arms, was deployed with Joe and Chris, the other two brothers, to Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's how they all got to know each other. But yeah, I mean, four brothers, we loved mead, and I can remember the day, that the one time we were sitting around and drinking mead, and we had the idea to really kind of start our own. We never could find a mead that didn't taste like wine. The wine has the sulfites and a lot of other additives, and a lot of meads out there are very similar to that. So, well, we wanted to make a truly traditional mead: water, honey, and yeast, and that's it. And we didn't want to put any sulfites, any other additives in there. I mean, as old as the most traditional recipes. Four brothers, we decided to go out and start our own, and it was just home brewing. So we would make it around the house, and if we got a bottle or two for the holidays or whatnot, that's kind of what the intent was. But as we continued to grow, you hand a bottle to your family and friends and say, "Here, try this, see what you think," and word got out from there. So we kept on getting more requests in, and then friends of friends started asking, "Hey, can I get a bottle for this event or this holiday?" And pretty soon, we're getting a lot of requests in, and we had to make a decision to, do we want to kind of stagnate where we're at, or do we want to take it to the next level? So that's when we decided to create the business and officially take it to the next level, to the commercial realm. So mead is actually the oldest known beverage that humans have been making. Actually, it predates agriculture itself. You think of traditional wine in the vineyards and whatnot, or the barley, hops, of wheat fields. It predates agriculture. So it can be found naturally if the right circumstances exist. When when the bees naturally are out pollinating and foraging pollen, they'll bring back natural wild yeasts, and nothing like the yeast you'd buy on the shelves today, but wild yeast, and they'll bring it back to the hive. And when a honeybee hive takes on rainwater, and again in the right conditions, you've got your elements right there. You've got your honey, you've got your water, and the yeast they bring back, and it can occur naturally in the wild. So you think about the first humans to stumble upon this this magical drink at the bottom of a beehive somewhere. But so the mead has its roots as old as, really as old as 9,000 years ago. Really it became popularized, we'll say, probably about 1,000 years ago, maybe 2,000, somewhere in that time period. And the theme of our place here is more of an Old Norse, a Viking time period, or it ties into our ancestry and who we are as the four brothers. But we just wanted to create that original, old, true, original, traditional mead. So mead, the honey wine. So really when you compare it to, your traditional wines, it's a lot smoother. You don't have that acidic level like in a lot of wines. You don't have that nose. However, despite being remarkably smooth, it is still a higher ABV. So our meads are at 16% alcohol by volume. And really what you get is a nice, smooth, little bit, not too thick, but it's, the viscosity is thicker than water, of course, but you get the notes of the honey in the way that we prepare it and make it. You're able to really taste the local flora, that the bees are foraging from. Our recipes are the same. Our process and procedures, the way we make the mead is the same. Really, our batches change based on the honey we get. So, one shipment could be from a spring harvest. The next one could be from the fall harvest. And depending on the local flora, of that time, was it a dry season, a wet season? The honey really does change, and it changes the profile of each batch. As honey is the main ingredient. So Fenrir's Bite. This is a traditional mead aged in 21% rye bourbon barrel. So this was our first go at our bourbon aged mead. So we had freshly dumped barrels with again the 21% rye bourbon, and we racked over our traditional mead once it was done fermenting and it's in the aging process, and we aged it in these barrels. We threw in some oak staves and whatnot and some other things, but it gives you that bourbon smell and taste, but without the whiskey bite. It's just a nice, smooth, and like with all the meads, there's a little coating of the mouth, and it's remarkably smooth for being a bourbon barrel-aged product. We have our traditional mead, which is again just the water, honey, and yeast, like we talked about. The reason why I focus so much on that one is because it is the base for all of our other flavors. So we'll make traditional first, we'll let it age, and then in later stages of fermentation, we'll add the other flavors. So we start with traditional, we'll take that and we'll age it in orange peels, which is our Asir Moon. And then from there, the darker color one is our Ironsides Rain, which is our mead with blackberry. And the next one down is our mead with cinnamon, nutmeg, and allspice. It's called Heimdall's Horn, and it's like a fall spice flavor. And then the fifth one down here is our Yggdrasil Sap, and that's mead with maple. So what we'll do is we'll take that traditional mead and we'll age it in a ratio of pure maple. The next is our Bjarga Kraken, and it is mead with coffee. And again, we use a better-known business, Got Your Six Coffee Company, exclusively for our coffee. And what we'll do with that is we'll put it in a large brew bag and let it seep, and almost like a tea bag in hot water. We'll let it seep and extract the grounds and the aroma and the smell and the taste, and we'll extract the grounds from there. And then last but certainly not least is our newest release. It is on the end there. It is our Fenrir's Bite, our mead aged in bourbon barrels. So we'll take our traditional mead and we'll age that in a 21% rye bourbon barrel. And we'll add some oak staves and whatnot, and let it soak in that bourbon flavor without, which would yield, a nice smooth bourbon flavor, but without that whiskey bite. And actually, that happens to be what I am drinking right now.
Good, take a drink.
So yeah. So it's one of my favorites. So the legs, you'll get, yeah, the legs. There's a little bit of leg. There's not, the way we make it is there's typically not a whole lot of legs,
Just turn it.
but
There you go.
you see some of the legs on that one there.
Sweet.
But this is the mead aged in a bourbon barrel. So it's our first pass at it, and it turned out remarkably well. It'll be a seasonal item featured here at the meadery. So. Yeah, so our meadery here in Festus at 124 East Main Street. We opened up right around late March, so impeccable timing for 2020, right? I believe it was actually the same week that we opened that we were required to shut back down. So we were never really open, but we immediately adapted, being veterans and able to adapt in any situation. We immediately adapted to a curbside, even though we had no one planned for this year. So we adapted to that, and then I think it was about May we were finally able to have people come and sit in and enjoy the mead and hear the stories and see the place. But inside our meadery, it is very much Old Norse themed, Viking. Think, from your 5 to 700 AD through your 1200s. I mean, we everything from the details and the shields and the weaponry and whatnot on the walls, and we try to make it as old world as we can, and just like any business, there's always room to grow, and as we continue to grow, there's new cool things that are coming in here all the time. So
Very, very nice.